Welcome, everybody. It's super fun to see everybody's faces because we haven't done these calls in a couple of months. We kind of took the summer. I'm definitely not going to say we took the summer off because we've been pretty busy, as I'm sure all of you have been. Took a little time off, but then are back with these calls starting with this one. So welcome, everybody, and I'm glad that you are here and are going to spend an hour with us this Friday. So I'm Kathleen Trapphagen, and I co-facilitate the Grantmakers for Education Out of School Time Impact Group, along with Rebecca Goldberg. And these calls are open to anybody who's interested, funders and other field actors. And we take on and discuss a variety of topics that are relevant to the field. And if you've got an idea for a third Friday call, please let us know. Just direct chat me on this call or after or whatever. We're always looking for ideas and would love, as much help and collaboration from any of you about putting together a program. So today's program is on the power of youth voice, and we're going to be hearing from a new initiative that Every Hour Counts is coordinating with national partners. And we are also going to spend some time today in small groups because we'd like to know what you're doing for supporting and expanding and listening to youth voice in your programming, if that is where you're coming from, or in your grant making, if that's where you're coming from. So we will have time for small groups. So that will happen towards the end, towards the kind of second half of the hour. Okay, intro question. Could you in the chat let us know who you are, your pronouns, your organization, and if you can recall a time when you were a young person, that's farther away for some of us than all of us, but when you were a young person and you felt listened to, what was when you were a young person, were you in a leadership role where you were listened to? Give us a brief small story about that. And if you could also take a minute to change your Zoom name and add your pronouns and your organization, that helps a lot when we are getting to know each other on these calls. So with that said, as you're doing that task, I'm going to turn the mic over to Gwen Hughes, who's Senior Program Officer at Charles Stewart Mott Foundation and is the funder of the initiative that we're going to talk about today. So thanks for being here, Gwen. Also on the steering committee of the OST Impact Group. So thanks for your leadership there too.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, and happy Friday, everybody. It is wonderful to see so many faces I know and also some new faces. So as Kathleen mentioned, my name is Gwen Hughes. I work at the Mott Foundation on our education program and oversee our after school program area, which is about 15 to 16 million a year. So we have lots of really amazing grantees that we get to support in this space. And I would say, when I think about this work, when I was doing it 10 years ago, and I think about it now, the amount of partnerships and voices has changed dramatically for the better. And I think this next project is a really good example of that. And also what we're starting to see, partly as, unfortunately, a result of the pandemic, but I think this is one of the bright lights of the pandemic, is an increased understanding of the importance of involving young people, not just to kind of, lift them up when they have successes, as part of our work, but to actually involve them in the project and leadership itself. So just by way of context for funders, from the funder perspective, I will be very candid that this was, we've done youth voice projects in the past, but this is actually one of our kind of newer initial forays into the whole area of supporting authentic youth voice, something our president is very passionate about, very interested in this notion of participatory grant making, particularly when young people are involved. And already as a foundation, we've learned a ton from these grantees in terms of, how do you really do this? What does this mean? And it's been kind of an interesting experience in terms of kind of like understanding from a foundation some of the practices that we just have that are kind of rote practices, and how that does not line up with actually supporting authentic youth voice. And I'm not going to put words in their mouths, but I think they probably also have learned from us in terms of what are foundations thinking, how do you actually reach these stakeholders, and how do we actually make the connection between young people and high level leadership, so that we can move forward in a way that their young people are really driving the change. So our goals here, and then I want to just turn it over to them because they have really the most to contribute here. Our goals here were to build off of, I don't know if you've heard of the Wilson Generator Z project, but they did this amazing project of youth stories. And the idea was to have young people define changes to after school programs. What would that look like? So we wanted to basically build upon that and help connect, not just kind of lift up, what do young people think about their futures, and what do future after school programs need to be, but to connect that then to our existing ecosystem driving policy and quality change. So hoping that we can kind of integrate more youth voice leadership in the whole ecosystem over time. So that's kind of our lofty goal of this project. And I'm going to turn it over to the team now who's leading this. So we have Every Hour Counts, Jessica. This is also a real partnership project between Every Hour Counts and Youthprise. So you'll hear a little bit more about that. And that too has been kind of a good partnership to learn from. So without further ado, Jessica, take it away.
Great. Well, I'm going to thank you so much, Gwen, and thank you so much for your amazing partnership and believing in us in this exciting new initiative. And to Kathleen and Rebecca for inviting us to speak here today. But I'm going to turn it over to my amazing new colleague, Hikma Shetty, who's leading this project. She's the director of youth engagement for Every Hour Counts. It's been a joy to get to know Hikma and work with her since last April. And we're all learning so much from Hikma every day. And Hikma's going to lead this call and walk you through the overview in our project and introduce you to our other speakers. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Jess, and thanks, Gwen. This has been a really incredible project to be part of. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Hikma Shetty. Like Jess mentioned, I'm the program director for youth engagement here at Every Hour Counts. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try to quickly go through what this project is, what we're doing here, and then there are some incredible partners that we would love to highlight and to share what their experiences have been in being part of this project. But yeah, I will share my screen with some slides, and then I would also love to introduce who I am and what this work has been for me. I am a little new to Every Hour Counts. I probably should stop saying I'm new. It's been 5 months now, and we started this initiative started before me, and a lot of the work has been with the Youthprise team with Every Hour Counts, and also honestly a lot of engagement with Gwen and Ariel, who are with the Mott Foundation, which has been really incredible to be part of, for them to be part of this process and really be engaged in what does it look like for young people to be part of this future of after school. So I'm not new to this work. My work has always been about youth engagement and youth-led efforts. And not just in listening to young people, getting feedback from young people, but with having young people centered in every part of the process, whether that's in philanthropy, whether that's in policy, systems change, program development, implementation, and all the everything, right? Like evaluations from every single step. If it impacts young people should be centered. And that is the core of what this initiative is as well. So we're really excited to share about what the work has been like for us. A little bit about Every Hour Counts. Every Hour Counts is a leading voice in promoting the work of building out of school time systems. We're a national network of 28 cities. That's the little dots on that map right there, and communities dedicated to expanded learning, equity, and making learning fun. We formed a little over 15 years ago in 2006 and serve as a learning community for the OST field, as a resource hub, as an advocate for increasing high quality learning experience for marginalized youth, and conduct multi-city national initiatives like the Powered by Youth Voice initiative to identify solutions to shared challenges. We, like we mentioned, have some pretty big key partners that we're really excited to have gotten the opportunity to work with and are working with, including Youthprise, who has been a really key partner in doing capacity building and just overall, honestly, like overall just support and thought partner in this project. Marcus Pope, who's the president of Youthprise, is here and will be sharing a little bit about what that partnership is like and the work that Youthprise does as well, which I'm excited for you all to hear about. Greentrike is also another partner of ours in this project. They're based here in Washington State. And they are actually a group of young people who are supported by another adult here in Washington State as well, but they are helping us do some of the youth-led space. So they're holding a lot of the community building for some of the young people. So holding youth Zoom meetups and building relationships for young people, so that beyond the work, there's a community for young people to be part of, which has been really incredible as well. And obviously this grant or this initiative has been made possible by the generous support of the Mott Foundation. Honestly, I also have to say, like, investing in youth voice and youth engagement work is really bold. It's untraditional, it's unconventional, and we're very grateful that the Mott Foundation took the leap in making this important investment. Okay, this initiative and our overall youth voice and youth engagement work has some pretty hefty goals. So these are some of the goals for the initiative. So to elevate youth voice and leadership, obviously, are the key ones. To advance new directions for the after school field, to empower young people as co-creators and designers of improvements to existing or creating of new after school programs in their local communities, to catalyze already existing practices in the out of school time in the context of addressing racial inequities and other issues of systemic oppression. We talk about youth engagement work as equity work. You can't do one without the other. Authentic youth engagement is a product of addressing the root of systemic oppression. And so the work is not just about bringing youth to the table, just like the equity work is not just about diversity. It is much deeper than that. So with this initiative, it's a first step for us and hopefully for the field to take a look at what that means, right? Like, we are learning a lot through this process, and we have started documenting what those learnings are, because it also goes into shifting mindsets and behaviors of not just the intermediaries and the 6 communities that are part of this process, but also overall field. What does it take for young people to be centered in this process? And there's a whole societal shift that needs to happen in order for youth to truly be centered. And then lastly, this is the learning piece that we would hope it is a field-wide thing, is to identify promising practices to advance the after-school field. And again, with some of the key partners we have here today, they would also love to share what some of their hopes are for learnings to share with the field. Some of the key activities for this initiative have been, obviously, like I mentioned, Youthprise is doing the capacity building supports for 6 communities. I should actually go to the next slide first. So how we have this initiative structured is we're going local in 6 communities, funding planning dollars where all of these 6 communities, that's Providence After School Alliance, After School Matters in Chicago, Boys and Girls Club in Flint, Primetime, Palm Beach County, Kid Network in Kalamazoo, and then Nashville After Zone Alliance. PASA, we have Anne from PASA and Dina from Nashville to talk a little bit about their work, so I'm excited. for you all to hear from them as well. But in these 6 communities, we have some planning dollars for them to bring on 10 young people, for them to be compensated, and then to go through this process, this design thinking process with the Youthprise team, and all of us to also be part of this process where they're all coming together. We're bringing together 60 young people from across the country to go through this capacity building, community of practice, design thinking virtually. And that's what we've been doing the past five months since we've launched this initiative. And so they have been going through this process to reimagine what it looks like for young people to be centered in the future of after school. And that has been the key question for the young people. They're coming up with ideas. Like in this past week, they came up with their top 10 ideas for what it looks like for in their communities for them to reimagine after school with youth at the center. And then next week, it'll be them coming to the group with their top 3 ideas, and then they'll be fleshing that out. And then at the end, we'll have a fall convening where they come to the full group. We'll have an in-person convening where they share their top idea from each of their communities on an idea that is informed by the young people, that is driven by and designed by their young people in that community, on what is their idea for reimagining after school with them at the center that meets their needs of their community. And then we have $100,000 for implementation that they get to decide how they would like to divide up, which is also another incredible opportunity, because when we talk about grant making and philanthropy, it's very rare for youth to ever have input on what that money or that division of that money could look like. So it's an incredible process for young people to be part of that decision making. And so they can decide to give that $100,000 to just one organization. They can decide to split it. We don't know what that process will look like. They're designing that in the next month or two. But yeah, that's kind of how the process is for us right now. And then we also, led by the Greentrike team, have virtual Zoom youth meetups for the young people to build community, get to know each other, and then have spaces for shared learning with each other. And same for the organizations as well. We want them to be able to learn from each other. One of the important pieces for this project, for us, was to make sure that to recognize, one, that not all of the organizations are coming at this from the same point, right? Like some organizations, for example, like Nashville, they have already been doing youth engagement work. And then there's other organizations who wanted to explore what youth engagement could look like for their organizations. So everyone's coming at it from different perspectives. Everyone has incredible learnings that they want to share with each other. There are things that one group is struggling with that the other is doing well. So we want this to be a shared learning opportunity. And we want to document what that process is like, so we can also share it again back with the field as well. So this has been some of the key points. And then we also have had a national youth survey. Our goal was to have 1,000 responses from young people. We reached that goal, which is also incredible. I'll give you a little sneak peek of some of the responses in a little bit. We had some youth-led listening sessions to also gather data. And then the proposal development piece is the piece that they're working on right now, again, to have a presentation on in our fall convening.
Hey, Hikma.
Yeah.
Hey, it's just, this is awesome. Kathleen just messaged, we started a little late, so we're running a little long. So I think she was suggesting we start with hearing from Marcus and Anne and
That's
Dina.
good.
That's cool. And we can, yeah.
Yes, that is our
Awesome.
next
Thank you so much. Yeah.
slide. So actually, before I go to Anne and Dina, I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. I would like to ask Marcus a question. Marcus, Youthprise has obviously been a huge partner in this initiative for us, providing capacity building, thought partnership, and guidance overall for this initiative and this work. And Youthprise is also not new to this work for you. And for you all as a funder and youth-led philanthropy, you have youth on your boards and you've been doing all of it, right? Like this is the work for you. Why was it important for you to partner on this initiative? And what are your hopes for learning to share with the field on this initiative?
Thanks, Hikma. It's been a pleasure to work with you and your leadership on this project. You've been like an engine to keep this work going and every hour counts. So first, We've been a prior partner of Every Hour Counts since the very beginning of Youthprise. And whenever we get a call from Every Hour Counts, we say yes. And to work with Mott, who's been a pillar in the after school world around policy and infrastructure building for states, it's been a huge, pleasure to work and bring what we have to the table to support this project. At Youthprise, our mission is to increase equity with and for Minnesota's Indigenous, low-income, and racially diverse youth. And we take the with and for very seriously. And that goes way back to our founder, Woki Wia, who started Youthprise over 11 years ago. And she actually hired me in part because of my qualifications and experience, but it was because I looked 11 years old at the time. That's what she tells everybody. That's how big of a champion for young people she is and was and continues to be. But for me personally, I do what I do today because of the influence that a summer learning program had on me. I started as a young person at the age of 14 working in a summer learning program through the Science Museum in Minnesota. And in that context, I witnessed inequities based on where camps were located, how camps were funded. And there were camps where young people, we would talk about places all around the world, and young people could share intimate experiences visiting those places. And then if you know the Twin Cities, we're known for these cities divided by the river. We would have young people who lived in St. Paul who had never been across the river in Minneapolis, and those who lived in Minneapolis who had never explored St. Paul. And so, although I didn't have the language for it at the time, the inequities that I saw drove me to want to work in an organization and lead an organization that was focused on disrupting inequity, and to do it in a way where young people had voice. Because at the time that I was working in those programs, there was no vehicle or avenue for me to share what I was experiencing. The fact that young people who came from my community had such different experiences and opportunities within the same community virtually. And so, this project is really passionate because we're listening to young people across the country, gathering their perspectives about what works, what does not work, and what their dreams and hopes are for the future of after school. So this is really exciting and important. And we're learning some really critical things. And we're always on our learning journey at Youthprise. We've been doing this in terms of engaging young people from the very beginning. And we've grown to half of our board being comprised of young people between the ages of 16 and 25. But we're on a learning journey as well. And for us, any lessons we can share as we're on our journey to help bring people along and accelerate their process, we want to do that. And that's what it's been a treat to do. And we've been learning a lot too. And like I said, we're also on our journey. Here's some things that we're learning. High level, what I will tell you is that young people have told us that after school programs matter, they're important, and they're making a big difference in their lives. And in addition to that, they're also telling us there's room for improvement. And as adults, that's something we should listen to. But as they tell us there's room for improvement, there's some really key considerations we need to think about. They're telling us as we think about improving after school programs, they need to be central and participants in that improvement process. And I think that's the big takeaway that we have. As you go underneath that takeaway, there's some other things that young people have told us that I think we should consider. For them, it's not about the type of program, if it's STEM-based, if it's arts-based, if it's recreation-based, if it's homework, if it's multi-purpose. For them, they want an environment that feels right for them, where they feel included, where they feel loved, where they feel like they have voice, where they have opportunities, where they can shape this. This is not new to us, given all the conversations we had with Youthprise. If you have that, everything else will work itself out. If you include young people, you engage them in thinking through what opportunities look like, we will get to the right types and mix of programming and opportunities. But they also want some tangible resources. They want, we play a huge role in the after school field in providing food and healthy meals and snacks for young people. Surprise, surprise, one thing that's coming up post-pandemic, if there's a such thing as post-pandemic, is mental health supports and opportunity, mental health supports. They're dealing with things in their daily lives that they feel like there should be supports and opportunities to help them navigate those challenges. So I think the big takeaway is, focus on relationships. Voice is critically important, and voice is messy because when you're talking about young people and their voice, you don't have everything figured out. We can't write a prescription. We can't say have these specific elements. You have to engage young people within context to figure out what the best strategies are to move forward and have high quality. So that's kind of in a nutshell, why I'm so passionate about working with Every Accounts, Mott and Greentrike, and some of the early learnings we have from our work in this work. And I'm just excited that Mott has made a commitment to this. As Gwen talked about, you've been doing a little bit, but you're going deeper, and that's super exciting. And we want more folks to go deeper, and we want to be a resource and a support, leveraging what we've learned as we've been on our journey to authentically engage young people in all that we do. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcus. It's honestly been such an honor to be able to work with Youthprise, especially for me as someone who's learned and used so much of the resources that you all have shared way before my time at Every Accounts as well. And it's been awesome working with the team as well, with Libby and everyone else. And Durham is here also from Providence After School Alliance, and they are one of the grantees of this initiative, this project. And I would love for you to share a little bit about what PASA does. And I also have a question because you all have an interesting partnership happening for this initiative, and I would love for you to share a little bit about that. But one of the things with this work, I think that we're learning is the question has never been about whether young people are ready for this work, right? Like, youth are leaders of some of the biggest movements in this world, and we know that young people want to be leading. Young people want a role. So the question is, are we as a field ready to make space? Are we ready to share space with young people? And are we ready to share power with young people? And your organization obviously applied for this funding because you wanted to explore what that could look like. Can you speak a little to what that experience has been for you in this initiative, and what you hope the learnings are for the field?
Sure, thanks, Hikma. Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Durham. I'm the executive director of the Providence After School Alliance. We are a out-of-school time intermediary based in Providence, Rhode Island, focused on expanding and improving quality out-of-school time learning experiences for all the youth in our community. In particular, we primarily focus on middle and high school age young people, though as an intermediary, interact a lot with organizations that also serve younger and older youth. How we came to this and what we're doing, and particularly to the question you asked, Hikma, of how do we ensure that we're making space for what the youth are already ready to do? PASA engaged in a equity audit process over the last year and a half that was very comprehensive and like a real look from every corner and underneath every rock of this organization to look at what were we doing well and where did we need to improve when it came to equity. And one of the most important findings of that audit was that young people did not feel that we were doing enough to elevate their voice and create opportunities for leadership and agency for them in their experiences with PASA. And that might be with the formal structure intermediary, PASA as a whole, but also within the individual programs that PASA supports and funds that they are going to every day. And this is a great example of where we might have a value as an organization. Youth voice and leadership has always been a top priority for PASA. But that doesn't mean that we execute well on everything that's important. It does mean that we have to take the information we receive and engage in an improvement and continuous process to move that forward. And the timing of the request for proposals was just phenomenal. We were so excited that the Mott Foundation recognized the importance of this and put out this opportunity. And it was really right as we were getting this incredible feedback from our youth that was saying we were not doing well enough at this, at least across the board and equitably, that we knew we had to dig deep and figure out how to solve the issue. But if I was to take the position that solving the issue meant that we at PASA, as the adults, were making those decisions to figure out how to fix it, we are already going against what the young people were telling us. We had to come up with a solution that would allow young people to tell us how to solve the problem. And so we were really excited that we were able to engage one of our amazing partners in Providence, Young Voices, who is just like a standard bearer for youth voice and youth engagement throughout our state, and say to them, you know, bring in your young people, have them explore this, what this looks like in our community, in our city, and at PASA as an intermediary, and have them tell us what we need to do. I need to step aside and not be a part of this, other than to answer the questions that they have for us. And I think that what's so important is that we know that youth voice exists in this city. We have some amazing programs, Young Voices being just one of them, that is really good at this. But as an intermediary, what is so important to me is that all programs that youth engage in and out of school time setting provide this opportunity. And what we are able to do as an organization is not just look at how we increase youth voice and youth leadership at the intermediary level, but also how do we support the large number of out of school time providers in our network for whom this does not come naturally and is not an intrinsic part of who they are and why they exist. You know, your amazing theater programs, or your sports programs, or, you know, your some of your small STEM programs that are not explicitly designed to increase youth voice. And so, you know, that is the approach that I'm taking. For me, it's about literally saying to the adults in the room, we don't get a say. We can provide feedback on what feels doable and what feels like we have the capacity to take on. But then we also have to listen to their feedback to us to say, well, maybe you need to shift your capacity and shift your priorities if necessary. And so for us, it's been about really ensuring that we're listening to the feedback that they give us and letting them determine how to move forward, thinking about both PASA as an organization, as the intermediary, but the large number of out of school time providers in the state that can benefit from what we can teach them.
Thank you so much, Anne. I know we're coming right up on time. So Tina, I'll ask you a question, because we really wanted to be intentional about like the group of folks that we're bringing together for this project. Nashville is an interesting one because you all have been doing youth engagement work for a long time. So a key part of this initiative is recognizing that all youth serving organizations are at different points on their journey, right? So what was this work for you before, right? How was youth engagement work looking like at NASA for you all, and how has that shown up in your work in the initiative? And then what are hopes that you have for learnings to share with the field?
Yeah, thank you for inviting us in. Thank you again to the Mott Foundation for funding this, because as we talk about giving youth meaningful opportunities to lead and really giving them a meaningful opportunity to work, there's that equity in making sure that since they are working, they are being compensated for their time. So definitely grateful that we're able to provide that team stipends for their work and show them that we see it as important and value their time. As far as what NASA was doing beforehand, there's an initiative called Youth in Action that is honestly for youth and created by youth. I'm not sure if she is still on, but Allie Duke is our NASA youth advisor. And as a high school student, she created this initiative in which high school participants, basically ages 14 up to possibly 20, if you're in early college, can participate in activities where you would work along middle schools, sites and help them with projects, creating convenings and leadership opportunities around the city, really getting a chance to focus in on what's important to them. And within doing that, there's a stipend that they receive monthly. And we have another grant that we've been working on, in which this past year there were 6 different projects that those youth community leaders and middle schoolers came together, decided if they wanted to focus on something within their community, within their school or within their program, and how they wanted to, support that, what they wanted to do to better those situations. And what we've really learned in this is, one, if we as adults, we've got all this time that we've taken to, go through school, get all the certificates and all the letters behind our name. So sometimes we think we know what these youth participants need. But the fact of the matter is, if you want them to be able to be leaders, you want them to be able to have these opportunities to really put critical thinking to the test, you've got to give them that chance. So with making these opportunities meaningful and really giving them that solid chance to put together what it is that they want, research, do these focus groups, all of that is bringing a lot of things to light that we may not have realized. Sometimes we think that they just want more STEM activities, but the fact of the matter is they are looking for those life skills. There's all kinds of things that we're really gaining and learning from this experience. So, I'm trying to make sure that I'm staying within the time, but one of my favorite quotes that I've gotten from a former supervisor is that youth vote with their feet. So you may think that you know exactly what they need and what they want, and you can put together this amazing program in your mind, and then none of them want to do it, or they've already done it before. So you have to really take into consideration what it is that these young people are asking for and what they're able and capable to do in order to really make that shift in after school or in any youth serving programming. But yeah, I would just say that focus on the equity of making sure that they're compensated for their time, making sure that you're operating as support, kind of minimal guidance. There's the ideas of these are the things that have to be accomplished. Let them figure out how they want to accomplish it. We've kind of operated as the logistics in the background. They'll say, we want to go to community events to do the focus groups, to meet up with people from all over the city. So then that just means that we're figuring out how to contact and see if we can be a vendor or at that event. If they're saying they want to use a food truck to feed everybody at the focus group, then that means that we're researching if we can get that scheduled, really just kind of operating as the logistics and the backbone and letting them plan and be at the forefront of what it is that they want to achieve.
Thank you so much, Dina. Thank you, Anne and Marcus, for all of you for joining us, for sharing all of the work that you're doing in your communities and all the work that you do to continue to support young people. I'm going to quickly share my screen to share some next steps that are coming up, and then I would love to share the Jamboard slides, because we're going to go into breakout rooms to talk more, because I know there's a lot of other work that you all, the rest of you that are on this call, that you all are doing too, that we would love to connect the dots to. All right, can y'all see that screen? I mentioned the National Youth Survey that we did, that results will be coming this fall. We're really excited to share that. We really do have this hope of being a resource hub. Like, we talked a lot about what are learnings that we hope to bring to the field. We're bringing partners. We want to connect the dots to other work that's happening in this field, because this work is really scattered, and that's what we hope for this work to be. So that's one thing that we would love to bring up in this next couple of months. And then another piece that we're part of is the Youth Voice Toolkit, that is actually by a GFE pooled fund, and After School Alliance is putting it together, and we're one of the organizations. Every Our Counts is one of the organizations that's part of that project as well. So that should be launching this fall. So we're excited to be sharing that resource as well. We've also been dropping some resources in the chat, and I think Kathleen said they'll be sending out an email follow-up with all of the resources. So if you have any other resources with Youth Voice, Youth Engagement that you would like to share, please drop them in the chat and send it so that we could keep sharing resources with each other. And then I wanted to do a little sneak peek.
Hikma, can you, the fall event, because this whole event is building to the fall event. So could you just, would you mind mentioning that for a second? And then I think Kathleen will want to go to groups. So
yes, the fall event is the big event that I mentioned that we're having, that we will be bringing together all of the communities and some key partners to in person for that presentation of their proposals on how they reimagine after school. So it'll be really exciting. And we will also share learnings and highlights and all of that from that event as well. And then, I just wanted to highlight the top 3 things on here. It's from the survey that's coming soon. Just wanted to say, one of the questions on the survey is, what activities do youth find most meaningful? And we had over 1,000 responses, and the top 3, but number 1 on the list was acting in leadership roles. And I just wanted to close on that, but I wanted to say how incredible it is to hear from over 1,000 young people, and the thing they find most meaningful is acting in leadership roles. So just how timely this initiative is, and how important it is for us to show up and make space for young people to lead. And also just like working on social justice issues being in the top 3, and all of that is just really important. So thank you all again for joining us. More to come on the survey and survey results. Please reach out and connect so that we can connect the dots some more on what work is happening with youth voice and youth engagement. And that brings me to the jam board that we're gonna work on. The link should be in the chat, and I'll drop it again too, if not, but we're all gonna go into breakout rooms. You'll have one of us as facilitators. There's 3 questions that we wanted to talk through. 1, recognizing that you all are also connected to some youth voice efforts, and wanted to highlight what those are and what you all are doing in your communities to increase youth voice and youth engagement. So that's one of the questions. Please use the sticky notes or pens and things like that to add. It'll be cool to see what the different groups are and how we are all adding to this slide. And then the next question is, what are some of the successes and challenges you faced with working with young people, and not in a deficit-based way, but genuinely, like, what are some resources that we need so that we could figure out ways to make engaging young people, I don't want to say easier to do, but more accessible. So how could we address some of those challenges that are coming up? And then the third question is, how are you preparing the adults in your organizations to work with youth successfully? So we're going to go into breakout rooms. The Jamboard link will be in the chat, and we are really excited to hear your responses. Again, please reach out to connect with us. Thank you so much to Kathleen and everyone else for inviting us into the space to share about our initiative.